Hey everybody, Shawn here from theautomationblog.com, and in this episode of the Automation Podcast, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I thought I would share with you how I set up my equipment for one of my lessons. Now, I have to record some communications lessons for my ControlLogix course, and that means I need to have programs in all these different programmable controllers to be able to show how to communicate between them. And I figured, hey, why don't I show the viewers how I went about setting up all of these different programs. What programs do I use? Where do I find them? Etc. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work with the MicroLogix and Slick 500s first. But before we even do that, let's take a look at RSLinks Classic here. And inside of RSLinks Classic, we don't really have any drivers, so let's go ahead and add one. We'll start with, why don't we go ahead and start with the Ethernet IP driver. And I'll choose my network card and hit close, and let's expand that and see what we can find. Well, here I see two MicroLogix and I see a ControlLogix chassis, and there, this should get me onto the Data Highway Plus. So let's expand channel A. Yep, there's my 504, my 520. I got two of my micros. The only thing I see that I'm missing is my 505. So I'm going to pause the video and let me take a look and see if I can find out why it's not on the network. So as best as I can tell, the 505 has lost its program because none of my PLCs have good batteries anymore. So let's see if we can start up boot P and give it an address here. So I'll go to Start, Programs, Rockwell Software, boot P, DHCP Server, and we'll launch the utility. I'm going to allow access to both. And it's saying, hey, first time you've run it, configure it, no problem here. My subnet mask is 255.255.255.0. Don't need anything else. And let's see if he's asking for an address. Now, sometimes when they've been on for a while, they won't ask for addresses as quickly as they used to. So one of the things I can do here to get it to ask for an address quickly would be to cycle power to it. So let me go ahead and stop the video and I'll cycle power to my 505. Okay, I found the plug. Let me go ahead and plug it in. All right, its power has been cycled, and we'll give it a few seconds to come up. And you can see the processor right here. And now you can see we're getting requests on boot P for an address. So let me go ahead and add that to the relation list. I'll give it a .47. Okay, it's there. Now, let's go ahead and close this. Well, before we do, let's see if we can disable boot P using this menu option. Well, it says it was successful, but that doesn't always work here. I don't want to save my changes. So let's come back into our Ethernet IP driver. Hey, there it is. And all right, so we've got our Slick 500 online, and we're pretty much ready to go here. I know I accidentally cycled this chassis power. So let's let it browse here. Okay, good. So that's back as well. So now we're ready to download some sample programs to our hardware. Let's go ahead and start with the MicroLogix. I got an 1100 and a 1400. So the first thing I'm going to do here is open up RSLogix 500. You know, that can program both the MicroLogix and the Slick 500. If you're only using the MicroLogix, then you just want to buy RSLogix Micro. It's a lot less expensive than RSLogix 500. In fact, if you have a MicroLogix 1000 or 1100, you can get a free copy, and I showed that in Season 3, Episode 6. So with that said, let's go ahead, and I want to go find the sample program that comes with RSLogix 500 and RSLogix Micro. And I'm going to find that under Program Files. I should say Program Files x86 because some people follow me literally. And then we will go down to Rockwell Software. And then we will go down to RSLogix 500, Samples. And then, since we can't see the extensions, I'm going to tell it to show me only RSSs. And there it is. That's what I want, the IC500 demo. So let's go ahead and open that up. And it's saying it's read-only because now that program files directory in Windows 7 is read-only. So we're going to say yes, work with a copy, and now we'll do a file, save as, and let's save it in my documents here. Let's see here, libraries, documents. We'll just save it right in there. Okay, now I'm going to do another file save as, and I'm going to save it as, we'll go to the 1100 first. So I'll save it as IC 1100 DMO, or just DM. Okay, and now let's maximize it. Let's arrange these windows so they fit on the screen better. And now let's go ahead and change the controller properties. And here I'm going to change it to a MicroLogix 1100. Do a Series A. And I could probably do this a lot better if I put my glasses on, so let me do that. Okay, oh, I can see now. All right, we'll go ahead and press OK there. And now we got some errors. So let me go ahead and double click here. And it says, yeah, the program was using I/O addresses, which don't exist with your MicroLogix 1100. Well, and I really actually don't have any I/O hooked to it either. So I'm going to remap this I/O. Let me show you how I'm going to do that. First of all, the original program had an output in slot 3 and an input in slot 1 and 2. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a search and replace. And I'm going to search for everything that's an output of 3 and change it to an output of 0. Okay, let's do a replace all. 22 items replaced. Good. Now we have to do the inputs. Okay, so I want to replace input 1 with input 0. So let's replace all those. Okay, and now I'm going to do input 2 to input 0.1, just so they don't clash or overlap, because there was an input card 1, input 0, 1, 2, and 3, and then there was an input card 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So I don't want to mix those together, so I'm going to offset them by 16 bits right here. So let's go ahead and do a replace all there. Excellent. And now, if we verify the project, let's see, we only have 4 errors left. And if we go to our input data table, and I'll have to zoom in on this, and go to usage, here we can see we have the first 4 inputs used, and then in the second word we have the next 8 used here. So what I would do at this point, if I was going to actually reuse this code, is because my micro doesn't have that many outputs, is I could remap these to that first word. But for a demo, it doesn't matter. So I'll leave those the way those are. And let's address these. Now these are OSRs. And we're just going to change them to ONSs. And that's all we have to do. And I'll show you right here. I'll just change the OSR to an ONS. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. All better. Don't know why those instructions are different between the Slick and the Micro, but they are. So we'll do that replacement. Let's see if we can do a search and replace on that. Replace OSRs with ONSs. Yep, it did it. And we'll verify. All issues gone. So now we can actually go about downloading this to our 1100. So first, let me save it. And let's bring up RSLinks again. I don't want to change the IP address of our 1100. It's 62 right now. Actually, I do want to change it. I want to change it to 63. So let's do this. Let's go to channel configuration. And we'll leave channel 0 at the default serial settings. But channel 1, we are going to disable boot P. Use 192.168.1.63 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. And we will click OK here and save. And now we're ready to download. So let's go to System Comms. We'll open up our Ethernet IP driver, select .62, our 1100, and select download. Okay, it's saying, hey, you're going to download IC500 demo to Untitled. Now, why does it still say that? Well, because we didn't change the processor name. So let's go ahead and do that now. And this is really where you're limited to 8 characters. That's why I took the O out of the file name so they would match. Okay, so let's try that again. System comms. Still have it selected. Download. Now, IC1100DM, overwriting untitled and this unit here. Yes, that's exactly what we want to do. Now it's saying the current project's driver, it's node 90 decimal, doesn't match what you have set up, which is 50 decimal. Do you want to replace the project settings in your current file, your current offline file, with the actual settings you're using right now? And we do. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, now here is where it's asking me, do you really want to apply your new communication settings? Because you're going to lose communications with your processor if you do that. And I do, because I do want to change the IP address. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, and it's all done, but we didn't get the option to go online because the address that we were connected to, .62, is no longer the right address. So let's do communications, system comms, and let's browse the Ethernet. And we should get a red X for 62. Yep, it's no longer there, and 63 shows up. That's good. And let's try going online. Do I want to save changes? Sure. I don't know what I changed, but let's save it. And it's saying, oh, it looks different. Let's do an upload use file. Okay, here we are. So we have our sample program in. I'm going to go ahead and save it while I'm online here. We have our sample program in our 1100. Now let's modify this program to work in the 1400. So once it's done uploading here, I'll go offline. And before I make any changes, I always save it with the new name here. So let's do File Save As. And we'll save it as IC1400 DM. And now we got to go to Controller Properties here and actually change it to a 1400. Whoops, I went the wrong way. Let's go up here. There it is. We'll do Series A, and we'll change the processor name this time. We won't forget to do that. And hit OK. Saying, hey, do you really want to make this change? Yes, I do. And now we have to go back to our channel configuration and update that IP address if we're going to apply the communication settings. So let's go ahead and do that. And channel 0, again, we're not going to change. Channel 1, we'll make it 66 this time. Leave everything else the same. We'll hit apply and OK. And now we'll save. Go comms, system comms. Select our 1400 and select download. It says, do you really want to do this? Yes, I do. Oh, it's a Series B, actually, not a Series A. And now it's asking me, hey, do you want to update your offline file with the settings you're using to download right now? So next time you go to download, it'll have the correct settings. And yes, I do. So let's go ahead and say yes. And apply. And go online. We didn't change the IP address, so we could go online right after we were done. And we're looking good there as well. So let's go back offline here. I'm not putting these into run mode because most of these units are relay outputs. And the relays get really annoying after a while, so I'm going to leave them in program mode. And yes, I do want to upload the data table. All right, so we got both our MicroLogix done with nice sample programs. So let's work on our SLC 500s now. So I'll go File, Open, and let's open the original IC500 demo that we began with. Okay, and so here, I'm going to start with the I/O configuration because this needs to match with the SLC 500, or you need to disable all the slots. Well, since we have communications to both SLC 500s, let's go ahead and make it match. You know what, before I even do that though, let me save it as a new name here. File, Save As. We'll do the 504 first. And let's change the processor name at the same time. Okay, so IC504 DMO. I had an existing file, we'll overwrite it. Now I'll go to Controller Properties, and I'll change it to a 504. We'll do a 541 to be safe. Okay. Yes. Okay. Now I'll go to I/O configuration and I'll read the I/O config. And here I want to use the whoActive to browse out through my ControlLogix chassis here. And where's my, there it is, DHRIO module. Channel A is Data Highway Plus and 504. All right, so we'll click on OK there. And we'll click on Read I/O config. And it read the chassis and it changed the processor to a 542B instead of a 541A and it filled in my I/O cards. So that's great. So let's go ahead and close that. We already renamed it, so let's save it. Let's do a verify project, no problems whatsoever. So now let's go ahead and download it. We'll go to comps. Well, you know what? Before we do, let's check our channel configuration, specifically the Data Highway Plus. Now this is set for node address 1. If I go back to RSLinks, it is node address 1, so we're not going to change it. We're going to leave it the way it was. So that's good. So now let's go to comms, system comms. We get the 504 selected. We'll download this program to it. It's saying, do you really want to take this and overwrite it on top of that? Yes, we do. Yes, I want to save the current settings to my project. It's in remote run. Let's put it into a remote program so we can download. Saying there is differences between our communication settings and the units. I'm going to apply because I believe those differences are probably on the serial ports. So I'm going to go ahead and apply. And we'll change it back to run. And go online. All right. That's great. Because this unit doesn't have relay outputs, we're not hearing any noise. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Let's take a look at the outputs here. Okay, data file. We can see the outputs are turning on and off. And you may be able to see that. Which one's the 504? You may be able to see that over there. Kind of small to see the LEDs, but you can see it right here in the data table. All right. So now we're ready to do the 505. So let's go ahead and let's go offline. And we will save. Yes. Okay, we'll save the program as a new project. I'll call it a 505 here. Change the processor name so we're not confused when we see it on the network. Okay, that all looks good. Yep, replace the existing file. We'll start with the controller properties and change it to a 551. There we go. All right, good there. Yep, yeah, make the change. And now we'll go to the I/O configuration again, and we will read the I/O config again. whoActive. Now we don't need to go through Data Highway Plus this time. It's right on the Ethernet. There it is. So let's select a 505, read I/O config, and there it is. Those are all the I/O cards I have in the 7-slot chassis. Excellent. And then input, input, output. So that works with what this program had originally. 2 input cards and an output card. Excellent. Okay. So we're done with the I/O config. Now let's go to the channel configuration because channel 1 is set for boot P by default. So we'll have to apply that there. Are they going to make me close it and reopen it? Channel 1. Okay. So we want that to be 192.168.1.47. I usually just use the last 2 numbers of the catalog number, so 1747. So that's where I come up with that. And then 255, 255, 2550. We don't need a default gateway because I'm not going through a gateway. And we'll leave everything else the same. Okay, let's verify. No issues. So let's go to comms, system comms. And there's our 505. So let's download. So it's saying, do you really want to download this program to this PLC with this program? Yes, we do. Saying, hey, your current project settings don't match. Do you want to update them? Yeah, let's update them. Now it's saying some of the communication channel settings are not the same. We're going to apply it because I'm feeling pretty confident that that has to do with the serial ports. And now we'll go online. All right. Let's see if this guy, I don't think he had any relay cards either. Okay, she's in run mode now. And we should see, let's see, slot 3 here. Right here? Yep. And it's really doing the same thing that this other guy's doing because it's the same program. But download it to a different PLC with a different I/O config, different communication channels, etc. And man, you can see how fast that ladder is moving, right? Because it's Ethernet. It's not serial or DH45. As a matter of fact, if you hold down your control key and right-click on that, and you come to animations, you can actually change it. I like gears. Kind of goes with the show's logo. So you can play around with that and look smart to your friends next time you're using RSLogix. But just some cool little tidbit I like to throw out there every now and again. But with that said, so we're done with our SLC 500s. We've got both of them going. Let's look at our PLC 5. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Yes. Okay, then I'm going to close. And let's take a look at the PLC 5. This has a very similar program, sample program you can get. And we will go right back to the same place. Program files, x86. And we will go down to Rockwell Software. This time RSLogix 5 English, samples. And we're looking for ICOM 5 DM7. Okay, this is the original. Actually, I believe this came out with WinLogix 5. So back when it was ICOM. So this has been around for a long time. And I wish I had the accompanying HMI file, but I don't. So let's go ahead and open this. Again, it's read-only because it's in that program files directory. So we'll open it up as a read-only copy and save it into our My Documents. Okay. Excellent. So what do we got to do here? First of all, we'll go to Controller Properties and make it a 520 because that's what I have over here. I do think mine's a Series C, and we'll leave, you know what, we'll call it IC 520. Excellent. Okay. Says, do you want to resize the data table? Yeah, go ahead. Okay. We'll do a file save as IC 520. Okay, let's verify that. Now, I don't have to do an I/O configuration with the PLC 5. I don't even, do they have one in here? Yeah, they don't. Because the PLC 5 doesn't have that smart backplane. The PLC 5 reuses that old PLC 2 1771 I/O. But I would like for the I/O addresses to work correctly, so let's take a look here. And unfortunately, my chassis, I know from doing some Automation Minute episodes, is in 2-slot addressing. So let's look at usage here. All right, so we need Group 2, Group 4, and Group 6. We need output cards in those 3 groups, 2, 4, and 6. And then let's look at the input modules. Because that's the I/O sim, it's also 2, and then all right, it looks like 0, 3, and 5. It's probably another I/O sim, and 7. 0, 3, 5, and 7. So I'm going to pause the video and go rearrange my I/O cards and change the slot addressing on my chassis, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I rearranged the I/O cards in my 1771 chassis to better match the program I have here. Also, changed my chassis to 1-slot addressing, which is much better. And especially when you're using 16-point cards like I am. And I actually put the PLC key switch into the hard run mode so we can see what happens when we try to change mode from the software with the key switch in run. So let's go ahead and go back to the software. I'll put my glasses back on here and we'll take a look at, this is what we've already set up. So we're going to go to COM System Comms and we're going to download to that 520. Do you really want to do this? Yes, I do. The communication settings in your program don't match what you're using. Do you want to update your program or your offline project? Yes. This is going to have to resize data tables. Do it. And now it's saying the processor is in the run mode. Place the switch into the program mode. And most people just say, yeah. And then they keep getting that same message. So I will, actually, I'm going to go around here and change it this way. Put it in remote. And now we'll come back and click on OK. And now it's downloading, and this will take a little bit. It's only doing 57.6 is the baud rate, and now it wants to put it back in the remote run. Go ahead, save the project, sure, and go online. And now, if we look at the output data table, let me go ahead and zoom in here. We can see group 2 and group 6, I selected both, have outputs turning on and off. And I know it's probably too small to see on the front of the modules, but you can see group 2 or module 2, because I'm single slot addressing, and group 6, which would be the last orange module, the lights are coming on and off. So we're good to go with our PLC 5 sample program. Now, the only thing we have left that I'm concerned about is the ControlLogix and CompactLogix. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to switch VMware images here. Okay. And let's open up RSLinks. And I have multiple processors. I have an L55 here. I have an L61. And my L55 has non-volatile memory. So even though the battery's dead, it reloads the program. My L61 does not, so I need to reload the program I have for that. And then my L71 doesn't either. So let's start by downloading the program from our course, PAC Basics. I got it already open here. And I'll download that to my L61. Just give it a second to wake up. Okay, and now I'll select download. And yes, I'm going to overwrite and there's nothing in the processor, so I'm going to overwrite nothing. So that's what I'm going to do. Because the battery's died. So that's what happens when your equipment's off for a long time and you have old used equipment. I have bought some replacement batteries, but they didn't last long. So not a problem here. So I can even put that into run mode. Not that there's anything connected up to it, but I'm not turning on any relay outputs, so I won't hear anything. All right, so now, next what we want to do is find a program we can download to the L55 and the L1. And two programs I like to use, now there's a whole bunch. If we do file open, we can see that there's a samples folder that is located with your projects. And in that sample folder, there are all kinds of sample programs here. Let me go ahead and take a look at the 13 Rockwell Automation ones. But I haven't found any of these to be very interesting as far as simulating data. So what I prefer to use are some of the programs that come with the Panel View Plus. So let me switch over to my Panel View Plus image, and we'll take a look at those sample programs. Okay, here I am in my FactoryTalk View image, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the hard drive and go into Users, Public Documents, RSView, ME, and I'm going to search on ACD files. And now some of these files I've created, but in version 6.1 and earlier, you'll often find that you have a BizBikes type of ControlLogix file, a Malthouse ControlLogix file, and an Instant Fizz ControlLogix file. Now in 7.0, you only have Instant Fizz, and then you have a new one called Rubix. And it really doesn't matter really what these programs do. We just want sample programs in our controllers for our labs. So what I'm going to do is close this and go back to RSLogix 5000, and I'm going to browse. I copied all those files onto my desktop. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. Let's start with BizBikes. It says BizBikes 5550. I happen to have a 5550. So let's say, oh, this is all the way back to version 10. Okay, so let's change the controller to a 55, but version, I think I have 16 in mine. Maybe we should put this in the L1. Let's use an L1, and we'll do version 13. Okay. And it says PAC base. Oh, it's saying the program I just downloaded has changed. Do I want to save the changes? Nah. Okay, so in just a moment here, RSLogix 5000 is going to open up that project, that 5550 project, and it's going to convert it to version 13. And then we'll go in there and modify it so we'll work with our 5550 L1. Okay, here we are. It's been converted. And the most important thing we need to do, because this is a demo program, it doesn't have any I/O. So we'll be good there, but we do have to go into the controller properties and see that this project is expecting the L1 to be in slot 0 of a 17-slot chassis. Well, let's go back to RSLinks and find our L1. And our L1 is in a 7-slot chassis in slot number 2. So we're going to go ahead and change that. Slot 2, 7 slot, and hit OK. And now we'll do a file save as, and we will save this as, let's do slot 2, A7. Okay, and we will save. And now let's see if we can download this. Communications to active, and this is going to be .19. And we set this all up in my course here, so that's why that's already set up, and we have the L1 right there. So let's go ahead and do a download and see if it works. Saying your L1 doesn't have a program. Do you really want to download? Yes, I do. And now it's downloading. Okay, now let's see if we can put her in the run mode. Okay, great. Everything seems to be working. Now, let's take a look at some of these routines. Yeah, looks good. Everything's looking good. So now we have a sample program in our L1. Okay, now that we got a program in our L1 and our L61, let's put one into our L55. And to do so, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Instant Fizz program in a new instance of RSLogix 5000. And I'm going to save it as _V16 _L55. And now I'm going to go to controller properties here and change the controller to an L55. Version 16, good. Say yes to all these warnings because it's just a demo that I'm downloading it to. All right, it's done. I'll hit OK. I'll save again. And let's check the controller slot here. In this program, the controller was in slot 2, but if I look at my RSLinks, my L55 is actually in slot 0. So because I have no I/O, it doesn't matter. So let me change that to slot 0. Save it again, and now let's download it to our L55. Our L55 already had BizBikes in it, but we're going to put this new program in it. So let's overwrite it. And now we'll change it back to run mode. And everything's good. All right, so now I need to put a program into my FlexLogix, which is, you can't buy anymore, but it's a great old processor. So why don't we put BizBikes into that? And we'll start by opening up this BizBikes V15 because my FlexLogix is at version 16. So we'll go ahead and save this as V16 _ FL for FlexLogix. I always save it first because as soon as you change the controller properties, it saves for you anyways. So I like to have control over the naming of my files. So let's go ahead and change the controller. We're going to make it a 1790 for L34 16 FlexLogix. Okay, let's see if we can make that happen. Say yes to the changes. Accept the change to the wall clock. Okay, and my FlexLogix has 2 network cards. It has a ControlNet card. I can't tell you, is that a redundant ControlNet card or a single? I guess I'll just have to look here. It is a single. Okay, try not to knock everything over. All right, so we'll select that. Just call it CNET. I don't know what node it is. Let's check. Inside of RSLinks. It's node 7. So go back here and make it node 7. I think it's slot 1. We'll find out. In the other slot, just to be on the safe side, I'll go ahead and add my DeviceNet module. And that is going to be, I guess I'm not using it, so I'll leave it at node 0. All right, well, let's try downloading this. We'll go to Communications, Who Active. We'll browse through our chassis and go out to ControlNet. There it is. We got to look actually for the processor itself. There it is. Looks like I guessed right on the order of those 2 cards. Let's see if we can download this and get it to work. Yes, please overwrite. Well, there's no program in it, so yes, go ahead and download it. All right, well, looks like we have electronic keying mismatch, but we're not going to use that anyways, so it doesn't matter. So let's go ahead and, oh, it's hard set into the program mode. We can't switch it to the run mode. So let's see if I can do this without knocking everything over. Put it into the remote mode. Okay. All right. And now let's put it in the run mode. Excellent. Excellent. So the last one we got to download to before we're ready to actually start our course is the CompactLogix. And for that, I think I'm going to put the instant fizz in it again. So like we did into the L55. So let's go ahead and open that up in a new instance. And again, I'll save it first before I change the version. We'll just call this, that's version 24, I believe. So we'll call it v24_L16. And then we will change the controller properties to an L16 and version 24. And we'll give RSLogix a moment to convert the program and open it up in Studio 5000. I'll accept the notice. Okay, I have 0 errors, but I know from using this before, I'm actually going to go into controller properties. And you can see by default, Studio 5000 gives it 6 modules worth of expansion. I have no expansion modules on my L16, so we'll change that to 0. And I think let's just verify project. No errors. So let's go ahead and try to download it here. It's at 69. We'll download. It says that it's faulted, so let's go online with it. And here, before we even go online, we can clear the major faults. So now we can download. And let's put it in run and make sure it doesn't fault. All right, good. So we now have set up our Icon 5 DM7 program into the PLC 5. We've set up the IC500 DMO into our 1100, 1400, 505, and 504. And we've got our course program in our L61. We got BizBikes in our L1. We got BizBikes also in our FlexLogix, and we have Instant Fizz in our L55 and our L1. So now we're all ready to continue on with our course, and I hope just walking through that and seeing how you can use different programs that come with Rockwell software as demos, the test and to use with your practice or your lessons, and even if you just want to try things out, that you can't try out on the plant floor. I hope that was helpful and interesting. And that's it for this episode of the Automation Podcast. Now, if you've enjoyed this show and you'd like to see more automation podcasts produced and published on iTunes and YouTube, why don't you consider supporting the show for as little as $3 a month? You can support the Automation Blog, Minute, Podcast, and Forums and get up to $10 worth of free downloads each and every month. And that includes up to 5 editions of the Automation Minute, as well as sample code that I've written and used in my demos. So check that out. And that's it. If you're curious about this course that I'm did all this prep for, it's called PAC Basics. You can find it at pac-basics.com or theautomationschool.com. And it's on sale right now, but if it's not on sale when you find out about it and want to get a copy, just let me know. I'll send you a coupon so you can get it for the sale price, even if the sale has ended. So with that, that's it for this edition of the Automation Podcast. Until next time, peace.